Welcome to West Coast Supercars and Classics. I'm Mark. Happy October to you all. I'm making this little video today on October 17th. Still nice and sunny and warm out here on the west coast of Vancouver Island. We're having strangely dry and warm weather. And I thought it would be a great time to take out our S2000, which is a year 2000 model, and show you around a little bit. If you don't know the S2000 already, or if you're a big fan, doesn't matter. Let's just talk about this little sports car, what it does, and what it's like to drive. I'll take it for a little drive, but first let me give you a little overview of the car. It was produced from 1999 to 2009. Now, overall worldwide production of these cars is somewhere around 110,000, 113,000, something like that. In North America, obviously it's a lot more, but it was interesting because I noticed that in Canada, the total sales figures were only somewhere around 2,500. So that's actually not that many of them sold in the country, and it makes it a relatively exclusive car, I suppose you could say. But still pretty high production numbers. It sold really well, and I think up until about 2006 the numbers were pretty good, and then the numbers started dropping off, so that's why production eventually was discontinued. This one is known as an AP1. It was built in May of 2000, so it's really a first gen car. It has the plastic rear window, and it has an original top, this one. I'll show you around in a little bit more detail. But in any case, all of these cars, whether the AP1, the originals, the refresh, or the AP2, which came after it, they're all basically the same car, basically the same mechanicals with some updates. So let's talk about the AP1 first. They were built up until 2003 at the same factory as the vaunted NSX. That was another largely aluminum sports car, quite a revolutionary car in itself. I'd love to drive one of those. I have actually never driven one. Obviously the NSX is a mid-engine sports car with a six-cylinder, a V6 cylinder. This one had two different versions of an inline four double overhead cam variable valve timing engine, right? VTEC, as Honda calls it. This is about 2,800 pounds as you see it. Doesn't have a hardtop, this particular one. They came with a 16-inch rim. This one's kind of riding on some sort of greasy Michelins. They're not the greatest tires, but still actually has quite a bit of grip. More than enough to have some fun with on a twisty road. The engines, if you look over here in the engine bay, you will find the lovely 2-liter. It's just under 2 liters actually. What is it, 1998 cc, something like that. I don't know how many cubic inches that is. What is that, 124 cubic inches or something? Really, it sounds ridiculously small. Anyway, in North American trim, it produced around 240 horsepower, just a hair under it, maybe 237, I don't know. Does it matter? Anyway, around 240 horsepower. But it had, at the time, it had the highest specific output horsepower per liter of any normally aspirated engine on the planet for a production car. That's pretty cool. The engine is mounted just behind the front axle, so it's a mid-front configuration, nice and low. That keeps the weight distribution close to the desirable 50-50 range. And what does that do? It helps the car rotate better because it's got a low center of gravity. The center of mass is as close to the middle of the car as possible. That helps it rotate. Also helps it spin if it gets out of control. Well, that's more on that later. Anyway, so that's the AP1 2-liter. The AP2 that came after it had a bunch of revisions long list of revisions, LED head or tail lights. The biggest thing, of course, was going from a 2-liter engine to a 2.2-liter engine. This one had a red line of 8,800 RPM, fuel cutoff at 9,000 RPM or so. We call it a 9,000 RPM engine, and I haven't mentioned that yet, but that is remarkable and one of the reasons why I wanted an AP1, because it's just so cool. 9,000 RPM basically. The AP2, the 2.2 liter, had a longer stroke, same bore but a longer stroke, so it has a lower red line. So you're looking at fuel cutoff around 8,200 RPM, so the red line is about 8,000 RPM on the AP2. The AP2 also had some revisions to the suspension system. They both have double wishbone front suspension. The AP2 had larger wheels on it. I think it came with 17s. And then in the rear there was some suspension geometry change to try to make it a little bit more stable in the rear. I'll talk about this a little bit when I take it on the road, because it is one of the characteristics of the AP1s. What else is there that I should talk about right now? Let's look at the design of the car. I'm going to put this down. Who, out of the automotive enthusiasts that you could possibly know or yourself, who could not like a little 2-seater sports car, light 2-seater sports car, lots of horsepower, very high quality with these looks, which are really classic looks? Who could not like that? It's a lovely looking car. In the first year when they were built, they only came out in 4 colors. I think it was a black, a white, a red, and then this Silverstone metallic gray color, which I really like as well. I'm going to take a look around the car. I'll show you around. I'm going to take this camera off. Okay, to start with, let's have a look at the interior of the S2000. Of course, I got the top down here, which is what you're always going to do, right? Unless it's parked somewhere maybe, just to keep the bird poop out of it. But do I care that it's got a plastic rear window? Not really. It's always going to have the top down when I'm out driving around, because I'm only going to drive it in the good weather. It's not a very good highway car. It's just a little sports car. It's a little too noisy for that. So really, if you want like a comfortable highway cruiser, this ain't the car. This is a backroads, twisty road, precision Swiss Army knife road carver. That's what it is. So, notice how nice and elegant this design is. I mean, it is really a beautiful shape that has aged really well. These wheels are, they're fine. They don't do that much for me, but they're fine. Okay, so let's open her up. So what you get in here is a nice, well-finished, somewhat luxurious looking cockpit, especially for year 2000. If you look at this, you got different materials in here. Now this has the perforated leather, including in the door here and the door skin. You got your speakers in here. Nice sculpting in here. This is nice high quality stuff that's aged well. You know what, before I sit down, I'm going to show you a little bit more of the interior here. So you get one cup holder on a spring-loaded thingamajiggy. I've got my garage opener, hazard lights. There's your roof mechanism here. 6-speed, they all came with a 6-speed transmission with a Torsen limited slip differential. You got your little 12-volt power outlet, and there's no glove box over here. What you do have, you have power windows, airbags. What you do have is a little cubby here that can be locked. Tiny, I don't know what you put in there. So not much storage. There is a cool little button here. That is the trunk release that's back there. So if I go back to the trunk, actually, there's a remote trunk release as well. This is pretty cool. Pretty slick for a year 2000 car. This deck, rear deck, you have to feel this. It's so light. It's so light. It's ridiculous. Okay, so you got this, you know, typical little trunk. It's actually not too bad. Down here you have your tow hook and your car jack, your jack. Little bit of storage, and there's a limited service spare hiding in here as well. It's actually really not too bad. You can fit quite a bit of stuff in here. That's really nice. All right, finally I'm making it into the interior. You got power mirrors on this one. You've got a wind deflector, which wasn't apparently an option. What do you see in front of you here? You have all of the driver's stuff right in front of you here. You look at the right side, there's really nothing there. What is here? You might ask, where's the stereo? Actually, there's some little vents here for the heat. Here's the stereo. You press on this and look at that. Isn't that cute? There's your Honda stereo CD player. Hides away like that. Why? I don't know, but it's really neat. Really tidy. So you got your ventilation selection here, really easy recirc, AC on off. You've got your temp and you got your fan over here. You got cruise control on this baby. A very nice leather wrapped, get off of there, a leather wrapped steering wheel with an airbag in it. This leather to me is a little bit on the slick side. It's fine, but you know, it's not the grippiest material. There's your cruise. Here's some interesting stuff. You got audio controls on the left-hand side over here, which are really quite interesting. So you have your volume control here. This is kind of a strange thing. You get used to this after a moment, but anyway, you can push it on and off. There's a mute button, separate mute button, which is kind of cool. I guess that's because you may actually have the radio on and you have this cover closed for whatever reason. And of course, quirky little thing out of the old racing world, you have an engine start button here. So I'll show you that process. I'm just going to close the door here. One of these days I'm going to get a wider angle camera here. So, starting procedure, of course, you put it in neutral. Turn on the ignition, press the engine start button, and she jumps to life. Now let's just get that steering wheel out of the way. Now I can show you the instrument binacle here. Now this is a very interesting and unique feature of this car, which I actually like. It's a very simple system here. There's no oil pressure, unfortunately. I would like that. But anyways, this is set up, by the way, for Canadian instrumentation. So it's in your speed readout is going to be in kilometers per hour, and we've got kilometers. So this car has about 24,500 kilometers on it. But you can easily switch it over if you want, like that. And there you go. Then now you're in miles per hour and in kilometers, so about 15,000 miles on this car. For a 22-year-old car, that's not a lot of miles. Okay, there you see your red line at 9,000 RPM. And as you can see, the main part of your display is this really cool rev display that goes across the front of the binacle here. Now that apparently comes from the Formula One cars of the era, which is so cool for me. Why is it so cool that it comes from Formula One? Well, because back in the days when Honda was in its heyday of Formula One, Ayrton Senna, the great Brazilian world champ, was driving the Hondas, and he actually had a hand in designing the NSX. So for me, that's a fantastic connection, which I really enjoy about this engineering. And Honda is a great engineering company, for sure. Now, a word about the quality. I looked through some stats, and I happened to see that the S2000 won a lot of journalistic awards for many years, right? Top 10 car and driver for years and blah, blah, blah. All of that stuff. What I didn't know, and I just found out today reading about it, was that JD Power at one point rated the Honda S2000 as the top, most reliable, or highest quality sort of upscale sports car. I can't remember exactly what the category was. It came top of the list in quality. And that's really saying something. And that's what makes these Japanese sports cars so fun, because they're really well built. And that's fun. They don't break down all the time. I had a Miata. It was the same thing. It was a fantastic car. They're both great cars, and you can autocross and track them and all the rest of it. But I like this one better. All right, let's go for a drive. Now, you may not be a complete fan of four-cylinder engines. You know, I have mixed feelings about them. Some of them I like, some of them not so much. This one's pretty cool. It's got 3 distinct characteristics. Right now we're at, what, 2,500 RPM, 3,000E. A little bit of a buzz, resonator buzz in there, but anyway, there's 3,000. Pretty docile, good throttle response at low RPM. And it's got kind of a nice, kind of mechanical growl to it at lower speeds. And then as you bring it up in revs, it gets a lot more metallic sounding. So I'll show you that first. So here we are. Well, whoops, we've got a little spin there. So that's about up to 5,000. So it starts to tighten up a little bit. Right around here, 5,000 RPM. It's kind of, the growl turns into a little bit more of a aggressive sound. And then between about 5 and 7, more metallic. And it comes up on cam now. It's pretty nice. And then as you get higher than that, at 7 and 9, it really gets intense. Not sure how much of that we can do here, but let's see. So, again, we're at about 4,000 here. Let's just go by this section over here. Do this little sequence here. That's about 5,000 RPM here. A little bit more of a metallic urgency to it, I would say, is what I would call it. Really nice. So it's very pleasant. I'm just going to stay on this road. Controls. You can drive this thing with your fingertips. That's one thing I learned right away, was how light the controls are on this thing. Brakes are very good, well modulated, easy to modulate. The car feels kind of go-kart-like, but at the same time pretty comfortable. The seats are quite firm. Side bolsters are really good. They hold you in. They fit me really well anyways. And I'm not a super big guy. I'm about 5'11". Like if you're big in the middle here, you might find it a little bit of a squeeze, but for me it's not too bad. So steering is light, front end is very nice and neutral. Let's do a little bit here. The shifter is just something to enjoy. It is a wonderful shifter. Let's try this little windy bit here. Oh, did you hear it come up on cam? That was nice. Here we go. Jamming in third here. Get on the brakes a wee bit there. There we go. Very nice. Wow. Lovely car and perfect car. This is the quintessential sports car. It's light, it's nimble. It likes to go around corners. It's got really good brakes. It doesn't feel rough. Honestly, it's not a rough car at all. It's very smooth and it really rewards a light touch. Really nice car to drive. It actually feels like it's got enough power. It doesn't feel underpowered. You know, down here, there's not a whole lot of acceleration around 3,000, 4,000. So if you really want to get it going, well, of course, you have to use this little thing here called a shifter, stick shift. So that's where the power is. So 5,000, now you got a little something. That's still pretty slow to me. It's got a bit more, 6,000. Now you're getting into some power. Sounds a bit like a motorbike, doesn't it? A bit like a motorbike. It revs up like that. I think I should take it down a couple more twisty bits. Let's turn around and get onto a twistier area. Let's just give it a quick turn around. I think I called this thing a Swiss Army knife because it just has that beautiful, precise, I don't know, ease of use, is that the word I'm thinking of? Something like that. My wife and I went out on a drive yesterday in it. And I think you could easily spend a day just driving around country roads. That's what I would get this thing for, honestly. You can take it to the track, and I think that's totally valid. All right, let's flog it a little bit here. There's a couple of good sections to do that. I don't like to do this. I don't like to drive too hard around people's houses because it's, you know, they don't need to hear people revving their engines all the time. So we'll just take it easy through this little section here. All right, we're coming up to a section where I can carve a few turns for you, just kind of show off the car's characteristics a little bit. All right, here we go. Let's have some fun. Let's get it up on cam. Very nice. Very, very nice. Wow. Off camber there. Right in the power band. About 7,000 RPM. Fourth gear now. Oh, yeah. Let's take this a little faster. Whoa, yeah, the rear end got a little lively there. Just felt it want to step out a little bit. So what I find happens with this car is that the front end is going to bite. The rear end is going to take a little time to get settled, especially if it hits a bump or something like that. So what you have to be careful with is just, you got to pay attention to what the rear is going to do. You can feel it, but you really got to pay attention. The suspension has enough play and softness in it that I'm just going to turn it around here. Yeah, the suspension has enough play and softness in it that there's weight transfer happening, right? This is not a race car. So you got weight transfer happening. The rear suspension takes a little moment to settle in. So if you're transitioning, you got to pay attention in those times. Get it to a steady state, you're fine, right? But here we're under braking and cornering. You want to finish your braking, set it up, get your cornering going. sequence here. This is really fun. Like, this car is just so lovely to drive down a country road. Wow. You know, if I compare back to my Shelby Cobra Daytona Coupe, which was a little bit lighter, I think, than this car, but it had like zero comfort in it, right? Like, it had no sound insulation, basically. I put some Dynamat in it, had a big honking 8-cylinder engine out front. That was a scary car to drive in that area right there. That was a scary car. It had so much power. And it's a pretty tight sequence of turns. So honestly, it was a little bit too fast a car for that type of road. This is perfectly suited for this sort of thing. Really suited for it. Doesn't have crazy amounts of torque, so it's not gonna step out with power oversteer on you. It's just, you know, you can feed the power in, you can feed the torque in. It's pretty easy to control. So for that reason, with all the other aspects of the way the car drives, I think it's really quite well suited. Well, I think that just about shows you what the car is like. If you like sports cars, you're gonna like this car. Get one before they get too expensive, because I think they're going up in price all the time a little bit, like a lot of cars. These are a classic sports car now. This one's not modified at all. It's all low mileage original. I personally like that kind of thing. That's kind of my jam. You may like things that you want to tinker around with. That's totally cool. But go get yourself one of these sometime. If you got the means, you're going to have a lot of fun, and it'll probably hold its value and maybe even appreciate in the future. And in the meantime, you can enjoy driving a classic sports car. Happy trails, you guys. Take it easy. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and share this video if you like it. And I'll make some more of them, I hope, in the near future. Take care.